So from December the 15th, new Naira notes will be in circulation in Nigeria, alongside the old existing money until January the 31st, when the old notes will cease to be legal tender. The governor of Nigeria's central bank, Godwin Emefiele, said the bank had obtained the approval of President Buhari to redesign, produce and circulate a new series of banknotes at the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira levels. He talked about the problems with the current series of banknotes, saying that over 80% of them were outside the banking system, increasing the risk of fake notes and the use of such monies to fund illicit activities.
Will begin to dry up. Ladies and gentlemen, on the basis of these trends, problems, and facts set out above, and in line with the provisions of Sections 2B, Section 18A, and Section 19, Subsection A and B of the CBN Act 2007, the management of the CBN has sought and obtained the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari to redesign, produce, release, and circulate new series of banknotes at 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira levels. In line with this approval, we have finalized arrangements for the new currency to begin circulation from December 15, 2022, after its launch by President Muhammadu Buhari. The new and existing currencies shall remain legal tender and circulate together until January 31, 2023, when the existing currencies shall cease to be legal tender. Accordingly, all deposit money banks currently holding the existing denominations of the currency may begin returning these banknotes back to the CBN effective immediately. The newly designed currency will be released to the banks in the order of first come, first served basis. Customers of banks are enjoined to begin paying into their bank accounts the existing currency to enable them to withdraw the new banknotes once circulation begins in mid-December 2022.
Godwin Emefiele. Well, for reaction to this fairly seismic development, I'm joined now in the studio by the development economist and macroeconomic policy analyst, Professor Ken Ife. Prof, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So it'll phase out the Naira because it'll force everyone to bring in their money, and the new money will have to go through the banking system, which is presumably a good thing.
Correct. See, what the governor only painted a partial picture. He tells you about 2.3 trillion cannot be accounted for and can be found in our banking system. But he couldn't put a figure on the notes, those fake ones that have been printed. We don't know. How many trillion would that be? I'm in ECOWAS Commission, and I know that our Naira is the second currency in all the ECOWAS countries. And when you go there, in the airport, you trade that. In the market, you trade that. So we don't know how many of that money is out there in those countries. We also don't know, we know that 100 million ECOWAS Francophone countries surrounding Nigeria, the Niger, Chad, Mali, all these countries, over 100 million, they're actually actively buying food from Nigeria. And they're not settling out with dollars. Neither are they settling out with the franc CFA. It is still the Naira that is out there. So we don't know the size of this challenge until we'll start taking back our notes.
So in that sense, this is a good move then?
It is a good move because it's long overdue. It should be done every 5 to 8 years, conventionally about 6 years on average. And the rottenness has gone on for too long. You don't know the size of the problem. But at least you can see some persistence in inflation, and you can see some symptoms of what is actually going on.
Right, and you mentioned inflation, because I understand that the main thing is also inflation control. That's one of the main objectives, because there's so much money in circulation, trillions, and much of it simply can't be accounted for. So the only way they can get rid of that money is by changing the currency, so basically they can force people to bring it in.
That's correct. Well, you know, the classic definition of inflation is too much money chasing few goods. But when those monies you think are 2.3 trillion, if there are 5 trillion, then you have more problem than you can deal with. And I know that one of the challenges people would say is, you know, how about the base of the pyramid? How about the people in the rural area? How about the unbanked? Technology has allowed us to reach a lot of these people. You see how many POS, over 1 million POS. Many people who don't have bank accounts, is either they migrate to e-Naira or they just go to the POS and do their transaction. And if you come to the market, you see where they deposit money and they record what they've given them, and then they come back the following day and take. So there's some banking going on at that agency banking level.
Yeah, but could this end up hurting people
I don't think
who
so.
are poor or who are outside that banking
I don't
system,
think so.
but are doing legitimate business?
I don't think so, because of the massive penetration. Do you know that Nigeria is number 6 in the world in the number of financial transactions? We are well over 3 billion transactions now. So a lot of people, you can just get that cash and you can transact just in front of your compound with somebody sitting under the umbrella, and of course with phones and mobile phones. But that doesn't answer the question about the fake monies, the size of that fake money that is in circulation.
But what about the fact that the CBN has given more than 20 trillion naira to the federal government as ways and means, which would have added to inflation because it gets into the system, and that money is extra budgetary, isn't it?
Well, that it is. Ways and means are extra budgetary, that's right. But there's a commitment to repay. It may well come by way of long-term loan. Obviously, we're going to have to pay a higher interest according to the law. And what I hear is about 30 years and 2-year moratorium. But it's got to be paid. But we had to do, according to the governor, what we had to do. If you notice that Nigeria has done well in the 3 major financial crises, 2008, we did so well that Sanusi was even invited by Congress in America to come and explain to them why we sorted it out very quickly in Nigeria. We had 2017, 5 months we got out of it, 5 quarters we got out of it, and then the COVID 2020, just 1 quarter we got out of it. You couldn't do this if you didn't have to invest that much. Where you had 3 existential problems. We had insecurity, taking 22% of our budget. If you don't fund insecurity, all of us will go home. We'll be overrun like Afghanistan.
Yes, I understand the
point. We have
COVID-19,
death, a matter of life and death. If you don't fund, you know, and look at the shock. The shock was both on the production side and on the consumption side. So we had to fight. And we don't have any national savings of that nature. So you just have to borrow. And of course, we had to borrow from central bank as well as borrowing from multilateral and bilateral institutions.
And is this move likely to improve the government's tax collection? Because money that was previously unaccounted for will now enter the banking system.
Well, of course, I think it will be. Of course, it will be. Of course, and also the CBN has given some relief, because normally they will charge you if you are putting in more than 150,000 naira. You would have a hefty, but now it's released that, so more people will bring in whatever they have without having to make so many trips.
Right, and given that, I mean, I'm looking at the people who this is likely to hurt. We've talked about potentially the poor, potentially some of the middle classes, some of the medium, small enterprises. Given that most elections in Nigeria are fought using black money, might this also lead to problems for the politicians and perhaps some form of electoral financing reform?
Well, politicians will spend their money fairly quickly because otherwise it will be caught in the web by January, and that is really when they will be spending the last bid before the election in February. So yes, some of those monies would have to be spent. I think they probably would have to leave whatever they have in the bank and then spend the ones that are in the tunnels or in the roof, wherever they are hiding them. Is likely to be the one that they will spend. But whoever gets this money from them will be racing to the bank to go and put it in.
Yeah, but
if it is legitimate currency.
Right,
And
but-
I have to emphasize,
Right.
the fake notes will not enter into our banking system
Right.
because the banks will scan the money.
But I mean, are the
So there
politicians...
will be substantial reduction.
Right.
When you discount the volume of that unknown quantity called fake money, printed money, you will see that obviously technology has made it easier for people to fake the notes.
Yeah, but beyond the fake notes, I mean, there's also dodgy money, which is not necessarily fake, but it's corrupt money or money brought in, it's not taxed or all the rest of it. Let's say, for argument's sake, that the politicians are bringing in a lot of this money. Would they not be able to escape this net by simply changing their money now into dollars and keeping
Well,
it?
that's possible. That's possible. If they want to avoid detection or accountability, as the case may be, they may decide to buy dollar. And the dollar they can still put in their domiciliary account, or they can move that out of the country. It's going to be difficult to control that. What happens then is that there's likely to be a surge in the demand for dollar, for that category of laundered money. And
people are going to be going for the dollar rather than anything else.
This will be a difficult time for
Right.
it to happen, because here we are having flood that is impacting food supply and
Right.
going to affect inflation. Now we have substantial imported inflation. And so when you go to that forex arena to change that money, that illegal money, to change it to dollar, to hold dollar, then the dollar price is going to go up.
Yes.
And that means the cost of importing. This is when they are paying for the Christmas imports right now. So they are going to be buying the dollar at a much higher rate. And that will be an inflation pass-through to the December figure. So that may go up, apart from the impact of the food, the flood.
So it's a mixed potential impact on society.
No, on this short period, but by February, March, April, it will normalize.
It will stabilize.
It will stabilize, yes.
Okay, I want to thank you very much indeed, Professor Ken Ife. I know you had a very busy day, but you took the time to come and talk to us today. Professor Ken Ife is a development economist and macroeconomic policy analyst. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
indeed.
much for having me.